It is almost September, which means we are finally here after what felt like an eternity. The start of regular season football is upon us. Here for Dallas Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com, I am preseason MVP, Fort Worth Star Telegram sports columnist Matt Engel. You like that one, Clarence? Clarence, hope and optimism Hill. He has to be that because he's a Texas fan. He's with us as always. Thank you very much to the good folks at Window Nation for sponsoring this segment, not only today, but every Dallas Cowboys Overtime edition here on StarTelegram.com. Clarence, yesterday was a big day for the NFL and specifically your Dallas Cowboys because it was the dreaded, always suspenseful roster cutdown day. Having read your fine work on StarTelegram.com, I think you put it best. The Dallas Cowboys didn't do really anything dramatic with their roster cuts as much as they manipulated it. Clarence, having covered this for a long time, did they do anything yesterday in terms of their roster manipulations that even caught somebody like you off guard at all? Or did you sense this was sort of coming?
Yeah, I mean, they always do things to stash players, and try to hide things to especially for guys who are going on injury reserve and they think that they're going to, because if you put them on injury reserve to start the season, then they have to stay on it all year. And you want to be able to put them on injury reserve so they can come back and have a chance to come back. And you're talking about guys like, Tyron Smith, and James Washington, the guys you expect back at some point this season. So you have to keep them on the final roster. And then you move them to the injury reserve the next day so they can return. So therefore, guys who you may have kept get cut and told to sit tight, and then we bring you back. The shocking thing was they cut all the quarterbacks. It's like, okay,
yeah, we're going to go with Dak Prescott. I love that.
They cut all the quarterbacks. They cut all the specialists up the punter because they know if they cut him, he might, get signed by another team. So they cut Brett Meyer, they cut the deep snapper, and it really was the guys who were the vested veterans who didn't have to go through waivers. Because if a guy, most of the young guys, they get cut out, go through waivers, they get picked up by another team. The Cowboys can't control the process. But when it's a vested veteran who goes into free agency, the Cowboys can talk to them and they can turn down offers to come back to the Cowboys. And so that's kind of what you have there. And obviously the shocking thing was, again, this final roster, if you look at it, there's only one quarterback. I mean, the Cowboys, as I said, the Cowboys took QB1 too far because Dak is the lone quarterback. There's only one specialist, with the punter. There's no kicker. There's no deep snapper. Certainly, you look at that roster, and, Jerry Jones talked about it yesterday. This team, and which I've said before, this team, the strength of this team is on defense. The best parts of this team, the best positions on this team, the best unit on this team is defense, and it was reflected in the final cuts because there were 28 defensive players and 24 offensive players. You went heavy on the defensive line, you went heavy in the secondary, you went heavy at linebacker, you did not go heavy, clearly a quarterback, but the offensive line, other places, they're light because the talent is not as deep there. And so that's this team's MO. You're talking about a Cowboys team going back to the Tony Romo year, there was always offense-oriented, Tony Romo friendly, Dak Prescott friendly. This is an offensive-oriented team. We're kind of piecemealing things on defense. But now the best parts of this team is on defense.
Jerry Jones said they kept more defensive players than offensive players. He thought maybe for the first time in forever. There's one particular defensive player I wanted to ask you about. I wrote about him the other day. He was a bit of a risk coming out of Kentucky. He's gone through some off-the-field stuff. Kelvin Joseph, the second-year defensive back out of Kentucky by way of LSU. Clarence, do you think he played his way onto this team, or is it the fact that he was a second-round pick and they want to give this guy a little bit longer to see if he can develop into something?
Yeah, the thing I've said about Kelvin Joseph since he's been here is that he's done nothing to show he's worth the trouble.
Right.
And certainly he has the measurables, the size, speed, and all that other stuff. But as far as plays on the field, he's done nothing to be worth the trouble, and especially in light of what happened this offseason. But, obviously he was a second-round pick. He does have the talent. The Cowboys, have not invested a lot in him, although they invested a second-round pick. They do like to give their guys a chance to get a return on their investment, and that's what it's about. I mean, you look at one of the shocking moves yesterday was the Raiders got rid of a first-round pick.
I couldn't believe that.
And tackle Alex Leatherwood. And I look back and Bill Belichick got, cut 2 third-round picks. Cowboys rarely do that. They don't give up on their guys. And this is a situation where the Cowboys are not ready and not willing to give up on their guys because, again, it's how the Cowboys manipulate their roster. They're not signing guys in free agency. They're developing. It's all about draft and develop. And they're, because of how they pay in Dak Prescott, they're going to certainly have to pay Michael Parsons. They're going to have to build this roster with young guys and guys they bring on through the draft. And they want to err on their draft picks and not on guys in free agency.
Can you explain to the audience exactly what the status of Tyron Smith and Nate Washington are respectively in terms of why they have to be on the basically the injured reserve and how long they'll be there before they are technically eligible to come back, even if they're not even ready to come back physically and play?
Yes, it's Tyron Smith and James Washington. I know Nate.
James Washington.
Remember Nate. That's okay.
Yep. Sorry.
But so they're on once you go on the IR at the start of the season, the IR to return, you have to be on there at least 4 weeks. You miss the first 4 games, and so obviously Tyron Smith is going to be longer than that. James Washington is going to be longer than that. But going on there means you have to miss at least the first 4 games. And so then they can return. James Washington expected it was a 10-week injury when it happened in training camp, and he's expected back sometime in October. Obviously, Tyron Smith is not expected back until possibly December, but it's at least 4 games. It can be longer. And obviously, once you out the 4 games, you can come back and you have a 3 or 4 week window to bring you back to the active roster. So then you can start practicing after 4 games. Yes.
Okay. Backup quarterback position. You mentioned it. The Cowboys are taking QB1 a little bit too far, even though you and I both know they're not going to go into the season with only 1 quarterback. It used to be an NFL team would carry 3 quarterbacks, and then it became kind of, I guess, trendy, and then just a reality that NFL teams would only carry 2 quarterbacks because if you get to the 3rd one, you're not going to do anything anyway, so why waste a roster spot on it? Clarence, the backup quarterback position for this team had an interesting competition. I think it left most people feeling uneasy at best. Who is the Dallas Cowboys 2022 backup quarterback?
Oh, I think it's going to be Cooper Rush, but I do think they're going to bring Will Greer back and put him on the practice squad. It was really a competition that really never really materialized in the preseason because Will Greer was hurt. He missed the first game, and he actually was better in training camp, but he missed the first game because of a groin injury, and it never really got right. And so that limited his reps. Then you have the awful offensive line, which it's hard to get any quality reps. And so he was hamstrung by that. Cooper Rush did nothing in the preseason to show that he deserved the job, but Cooper Rush did beat the Vikings last year when Dak Prescott was hurt in his only career start. And that's the thing about it. He's only had 1 career start in all these years with the Cowboys, but he won that game, and he won
Clarence,
that game.
Real quick, he won the game, and he managed it, and Amari Cooper made a nice play. All of his teammates did exactly what a team to win with a backup quarterback had to do that night in Minnesota on Sunday night. They all did it. Credit to all of them. But when I looked at those 2 guys, Rush obviously is a pro. They obviously like him. He's been around. He knows what to do in limited practice reps. He knows how to prepare for a game. He knows how to study. He knows the language. All of these things are pluses. But in my mind, he's hit his ceiling. And his ceiling to me is what it is, which I give him a lot of credit, considering where he came out of and all the circumstances around him. For a guy to make it in the NFL for as long as he has, you have to kind of admire that. But at the same time, when you look at this offensive line, which is shaky now, it used to be the identity of the team, and now it's kind of susceptible to a lot. I think Will Greer, even though he didn't show you very much, is the better option simply because he can extend plays with his feet and maybe give you an alternative that way. Is there any chance at all, Clarence, that at some point they may go with him because he can do some things with his feet, whereas Rush can't? Yeah,
I mean, that's just it. And like I said, that's why they're bringing him back to the practice squad. At least they hope to bring him back to the practice squad. See, when I talked about earlier, Cooper Rush is a vested veteran. He can sit tight. Will Greer has to go through the waiver process. So there's a chance that some team could nab him Today the Cowboys holding out hope that no team nabs him, off the waiver wire, so they can bring him back to the press squad. But I think the plan is for both of them to be on the roster in some form as the number 2 quarterback or the practice squad quarterback, and then let them continue this battle in the season. Let them continue this battle in practice. This can easily be flopped the week of a game.
You use the word flop. Cooper Rush versus Will Greer as a competition. Well, that certainly is the description.
Well, the bottom line is Cooper Rush has the experience, and they have the know-how of seeing him win that game.
Yeah, Clarence, wait a minute. Let's be honest. You hit the nail on the head. We saw him play these preseason games. They're no different. They're no different than the other preseason games. I remember I was at the game last year in Arizona, and I'm like, holy God, this guy's going to make an NFL team? There's no way. Sure enough, he makes an NFL team. The Cowboys get rolling. Dak hurts his foot or his ankle, whatever it was, his ankle. Then Cooper Rush comes in, saves the day, wins a game against a bad Minnesota team, but he won it, to his credit. He won it. And all of a sudden, he's going to get another year out of that, and they're going to roll the dice on that guy? Or is it just a giant white flag and saying, you know what? If we get back to the second guy,
you're so dramatic.
So who cares?
You're so dramatic. Stop the drama.
It's passion.
You're being dramatic.
That's all it is.
Okay? You're being dramatic. It's the backup quarterback. Okay,
it's important, Clarence. You and I watched a lot of bad backup quarterbacks in this league.
Tell me the backup Tom Brady.
Which one? Jimmy Garoppolo almost got to the Super Bowl.
I'm talking about the current backup in Tampa.
Blaine Gabbert.
Okay.
Did I get it right? Wait. I don't even know. I'm guessing. Did I get it right?
Are you happy? You think they can win the Super Bowl?
That was a guess. Just
yeah.
Another bad white Missouri quarterback.
I'm just saying.
They're a dime a dozen. They're all over the place.
Did you see, and I know we need to move on, but let's look at Seattle, for example.
Oh, my God.
You think there are a lot of quarterbacks out there?
They're not even quarterbacks in Seattle.
Out there with, and really, the Seattle decision was a perfect example of the Cowboys, because you have one guy who was more of a game manager, and another guy who's the swashbuckling, let me take chance, I'm aggressive type. And he threw 3 interceptions against the Cowboys backups.
He was terrible. Drew Lock was awful. That was a first-round pick. And Geno Smith, coming out of West Virginia, was the swashbuckling, take chances guy. And now he's the safe veteran.
Exactly. And they had to go with the safe veteran because you don't want to take a chance on another guy who's going to cost you games against the backup.
All right. So we will come back here on Dallas Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com after this message from the wonderful people at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Clarence, I know it's August and Christmas is way down the road, right? But I know you're a guy who likes to get his shopping done early for his 2 daughters, his 2 wonderful daughters. Have you thought about maybe buying them windows for Christmas from Window Nation? They make a great stocking stuffer.
Yes, they would love that. My iPhone loving, iPad loving, everything loving daughters. They want windows for Christmas.
Windows first and then technology.
Yes.
Okay. So this week on 105.3 The Fan, the flagship radio station of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones started to make his weekly appearances on that station, and he addressed the Michael Gallup situation. Now, Michael Gallup tore his ACL late in the regular season. Despite that, the Cowboys went ahead and dumped Amari Cooper because they didn't like him, and then they gave Michael Gallup a whole bunch of money because they love to give injured guys money. I don't understand it, but it's what they do. Now, we thought Michael Gallup, we don't know where Michael Gallup is on his rehab trajectory, and nobody loves to play doctor any more effectively than our Dr. Jerry Jones. Jerry said if the Super Bowl was this week, Michael Gallup could play. Pretty sure the Super Bowl isn't this week. I need to check the calendar. Clarence, what the hell's the status of Michael Gallup now that Jerry Jones has this guy getting ready for the Super Bowl, even though the NFL season doesn't start for another 2 weeks or week and a half?
Let's back up. At the Super Bowl this week, Michael Gallup would not be playing because the Cowboys wouldn't be in it. Let's start there. Why are we talking Super Bowl? Why is that the analogy?
Where's the hope and optimism? I'm looking on my screen and I see hope and optimism.
Why is that the standard here? Can they get it? Why can't they say if the playoffs started this week?
If you're gonna go big, go big.
I mean,
hey, if it's the wild card, who cares? If you're gonna do it, and make a stupid analogy,
that game to get to the Super Bowl. Okay, if the tournament, the Bill Parcells tournament started this week,
yeah.
let's go with the tournament. Why do we have to use? Why do we have to use the Super Bowl? I mean, the bottom line is the Cowboys, and we talked about the roster. That was one of the decisions they had to make. The Cowboys could have done the same thing with Michael Gallup that they did with Tyron Smith. Okay, they could have put him on injury reserve or move him to injury reserve after he's on the roster the first day. They're not doing that because they don't want him to be out 4 games. If you go on that, as I said earlier, if you go on that list, you have to miss the first 4 games. They think he's not ready for the opener. They're not. They've said from the beginning he wouldn't be ready for the opener, even if it was the Super Bowl. That's never been on the table. Even though Jerry said he's ready to play if the opener was the Super Bowl, so opener's not the Super Bowl. So whatever we're talking about, I don't know. But the bottom line is, there was never a chance he's going to be ready, whether the Cowboys being conservative or not, for him to be ready for the opener against Tampa Bay. But they do think he'll be back before 4 games. So we want to give him a chance to play as many games as possible, whether that's week 2, week 3, or week 4, which is why he's not on the injured reserve list. My problem is, and I've been saying this, since the start of training camp, no matter when he comes back, he's not going to be Michael Gallup, at least not for the first part of the season.
No, I agree. I thought week 8. Week 8 would be the earliest.
The problem is, with an ACL, it's not just about being back, it's being comfortable. It's about being yourself. And most people the best thing about Dak Prescott is a year removed from the injury. Yeah. And he's at his best, a year removed from the injury. Now, Dak Prescott had a good year, great year last year, but he didn't move as well as he did before. And he don't, as a quarterback, you don't have to run as much. As a receiver, running and cutting and confidence and everything, you're not going to be yourself until a year, at least months to a year removed from the injury. So to suggest that, yes, we're going to get Michael Gallup back in week 2, and it's going to be the old Michael Gallup, and his offense is not going to see a step back, that's just shoddy thinking. Most fans, he's going to be back, he's ready to go. This receiver corps will still be a lesser unit, even with Michael Gallup back, because he's not going to be Michael Gallup. No matter what you think of Michael Gallup, the type of person you think you get, a player you think he can be, he's not going to be that in October or September, and certainly not in October. And these games are so important, which I still think it's a mistake for them not to address the receiver position, because right now they're heading into the season with CeeDee Lamb and a bunch of maybes. And Michael Gallup, an injured Michael Gallup, is a maybe.
Well, and that goes into the other topic of discussion, which is their left tackle spot. Obviously, we've talked about this here on Cowboys Overtime before, which is all-pro left tackle Tyron Smith is gone until December. Now, after the preseason game, the final preseason game, Cowboys Vice President Stephen Jones comes out and basically says rookie Tyler Smith, who I'm not sure was even penciled in to start at guard, at least by his head coach, is now going to be the starting left tackle, even though he's battling a high ankle sprain. The reason I said the Gallup thing affects this, we're going to see fewer guys go into pass patterns. There's going to be a tight end, whether it's rookie Jake Ferguson, who looked like he had just a terrific camp in preseason, or certainly who's the other tight end? Clarence and the starting tight end.
Dalton Schultz.
I wanted to say Blake Jarwin. I'm like, no, Blake had to retire. Dalton Schultz. God, I'm getting old. So Dalton Schultz can't run out, or Jake Ferguson isn't going to be able to run out because they're going to have to babysit Tyler Smith. I don't know how this receiving thing is going to thrive unless CeeDee Lamb can outjump what will be double coverage on virtually every passing down. Convince me otherwise.
No, I think that's part of it. I think the one thing you're going to see them moving CeeDee Lamb around, doing things to get him away from double coverage. He won't be sitting out there like Amari Cooper on the left side. He will be moved into the slot. He will be on the, in motion. They will move him, do things they should have done with Amari Cooper. They should have done last year to get your number one receiver the ball and make him the primary receiver. Just because he could get 200 targets. He's gonna be the guy they're trying to get the ball to. Now, can he hold up? all this other stuff, with all this extra work, we'll see. Historically, last couple of years, he's never had to face the number one receiver. Because Amari Cooper number one cornerback.
Right.
Amari Cooper's had the coverage rolled to him. Now it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. You go back, to that great touchdown play against the
Vikings?
New England Patriots. No, I'm talking New England Patriots. When he won the game-winning play against the New England Patriots. Yeah. That was opened up because of the defensive focus on Amari Cooper, which left CD in one-on-one coverage. Well, now you won't have that. There's no one opposite him for anybody to care about. It's going to be all focused on CeeDee Lamb. But, yeah, you got, Tony Parsons is going to be a slot receiver. They're going to have to do things more creative. One thing they're also going to do is they're going to run the ball more. Jared talked about it yesterday. Yeah. This is going to be a run-oriented team. We do the play-action pass, but we got guys that can play-action pass. Yeah, because you don't have the body to get downfield. So, yeah, you have to do the play-action pass. But, yes, with the young linemen, they're going to run the ball more. It's easier to run block than pass block, and that's what they're going to try to lean on early in the season until, at least Tyler Smith gets his feet wet or Tyron Smith comes back.
Tyron Smith is not coming back until December. This is Tyler Smith's job at left tackle. Clarence, when he was drafted out of Tulsa, the fear was, even though he played left tackle at Tulsa, it looked like as a first-round pick, as a left tackle, he was a bit of a reach. But at guard, it looked like a guy who might be able to thrive in that spot. Everybody wants to see this kid do well. I know we're both kind of biased because he's a Fort Worth kid. It'd be great if he does well. As a Cowboys observer, I'm nervous about this one. The idea that they're going to put this kid – Tyron Smith is an all-pro, and he started out as a right tackle before they flipped him over to the other side after Doug Free retired after Tyron Smith's rookie year. They're asking an awful lot out of this kid, and I think it's too much. He might be able to hold up. I hope he can hold up for all the right reasons. But, Clarence, this to me is a recipe for a really hard start, not just for the Cowboys, but for rookie Tyler Smith.
Well, I mean, he was drafted to be the left tackle in the future. No matter what you say, they drafted him with the designs on replacing Tyron Smith. He's going to be that guy. I've watched him. He's a big, strong guy. I think he's more Flozo Adams than Tyron Smith. I don't know if he'll ever be an 8-time Pro Bowler, but can he be a serviceable, solid tackle in this league? Yeah, he can develop that. Is he going to be that this year? No, that's the issue. But he has the size, the measurables to make up the smarts to learn and be a solid tackle in this league. There's no question about that, and they believe that. They didn't think it would happen this early because they, for whatever reason, held out hope that somehow Tyron Smith would be healthy for the first time since ever.
6 years.
He has not played a full season since 2015. He's missed at least 3 games a year every year since 2016. And this past 2 seasons, he missed 20 games. He's missed 20 games the past 2 seasons combined.
No, it was absurd. Counting on this was ridiculous. Of all the things,
their biggest mistake was not going to get a veteran swing tackle so they could, at least have some insurance in this process, because you wanted Tyler Smith to start at left guard. You wanted him to help be a replacement, be an improvement over Connor Williams. The idea that Connor McGovern was competing for that job, the idea that Connor McGovern now is okay at left guard with Tyler Smith at right guard when Connor McGovern cannot beat out Connor Williams.
Don't even get me started on this. I could rant about this forever. That to me was the biggest mistake that they made, was this idea. Now, granted, they did the same thing back in 2009 with Flozo Adams, who was a nice player. He wasn't a great player, but he was a nice,
he was solid. Flozo Adams was not a weak link at all.
Nope, not at all. And, basically the Cowboys, Clarence, have had 2 left tackles this century. They've had other guys play, but really they've had 2 anchors on the left side, Flozo Adams and Tyron Smith. And at the very end of his run with the Cowboys, they went into the offseason thinking maybe we can get 1 more year out of Flozell. And they did. They got 1 more year out of him on the left side. He was pretty good, but in the playoff loss to the Vikings in the 2009 season, he got destroyed. And it was obvious that he was at the end of the line, at least on the left side. So the Cowboys let him go. The Steelers signed him to a 1-year deal. Might have been a multi-year deal. But they put him on the right side. They went to the Super Bowl. And he was good. He started all 6 teams. He was good. And then he retired. They bring in Tyron Smith, and now they're doing the exact same thing with him, which is maybe we can get 1 more year out of this guy. And they can't. Clearly, he's at the end of the line, and now they got to really cross their fingers that they can get away with Tyler Smith and that he can be a nice, decent player as he develops, hopefully, into maybe some combination, someplace in between Tyron Smith and Flozell Adams. We've gone too long here on Dallas Cowboys Overtime. Be sure to join us next week because we will get our predictions for the season now that we know what the roster looks like. The NFL season starts next week. The college season starts this week with a full slate of games, and the Texas high school football season has already begun. For all of your football, Dallas Cowboys, TCU, and sports coverage needs, please check us out on StarTelegram.com. I want to thank the great folks at Window Nation for being with us. Clarence, be well. Make sure to go buy windows right now for your daughters for Christmas before they run out. We'll see you next time here on Dallas Cowboys Overtime.